Welcome back to the Paul's Fundamentals News Report. You can find more videos like this on our YouTube channel, and the sources for this report are linked below. Let's kick things off with a look at the weather for the Faroe Islands. What can we expect?
Well, for today, we're looking at light to moderate northerly winds. Those are going to decrease to light easterlies later in the day. Cloudy skies, some occasional drizzle temperatures between 1 and 5 degrees Celsius.
All right, so bundle up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, looking ahead to Thursday, winds pick up a bit. We're talking fresh to strong southeasterlies, a mix of clouds and some rain showers. Temperatures a little bit warmer, 3 to 7 degrees.
Okay.
Friday, those winds are sticking around coming from the east this time, and those scattered showers, they're going to turn into a more steady rain, overcast skies, temperatures holding steady between 3 and 6 degrees.
So no beach days this week.
Probably not. Saturday brings more strong winds westerly this time. Overcast skies with periods of rain or drizzle. Temperatures stay consistent between 3 and 6 degrees. Sunday might be your best bet if you're looking to get outside. The winds are going to gradually decrease, and we'll see some partly cloudy skies. Temperatures a bit cooler, though, between 1 and 5 degrees.
All right.
And then finally, Monday, back to those strong winds, this time from the east or northeast. Cloudy skies and showers, temperatures between 4 and 7 degrees.
Sounds like a pretty typical week in the Faroes.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, well, now let's move on to some financial news. Faroe Banki is projecting a profit exceeding 300 million Danish kroner for 2024.
Yeah, that's right. They're attributing this positive outlook to improved returns on securities investments and also fewer write-downs than they initially anticipated.
Okay, and what about Betri Bank? They've been in the news recently, haven't they?
Yes, the Financial Supervisory Authority paid them a visit in September 2024, and they found that Betri Bank has a high proportion of commercial loans that aren't covered by the Deposit Guarantee Fund.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is, however, they also confirmed that Betri Bank doesn't need to adjust its write-downs or solvency requirements at this time. There were some administrative issues identified that the bank needs to address.
Got it. Well, let's shift gears now and talk about some health news. There's a new research project investigating childhood cancer in the Faroe Islands. What can you tell us about that?
Well, on average, 2 children are diagnosed with cancer every year in the Faroe Islands, which is a rate that's similar to neighboring countries. However, the types of cancer seen in Faroese children are different, suggesting a possible link to Faroese genetics. So researchers are looking into that.
Okay, and there's also been some discussion about ultra-processed foods. What are those exactly?
Well, Mellen Nicolina Dodier Mikkelsen, who's the head of the food department at the Faroes Food and Veterinary Authority, she defines them as foods that can't be replicated in a home kitchen. So things like candy chips, cakes, long-life bread, things like that.
All right, so basically anything that comes in a package.
Pretty much, yeah. They're generally considered safe to eat, but they should be consumed in moderation, especially considering those chemical additives.
Good advice. All right. Turning our attention now to some legal rulings, it seems there's a new fine in place for anyone importing dogs without prior permission.
Yeah, that's right. The Faroes court has set a fine of 3,000 Danish kroners for anyone who imports dogs without first getting permission from the Faroes Food and Veterinary Authority.
Okay, good to know. And there's also been some talk about something called golden maps. What can you tell us about that?
Golden Maps refers to the distribution of digital images of naked women on social media without their consent. And so far, 2 charges have been filed in such cases in the Faroe Islands, but there haven't been any convictions yet.
Interesting. And lastly, let's move on to some news from the crime beat. 3 Danish men were recently arrested in Denmark for allegedly planning to smuggle narcotics to the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, these arrests follow a previous incident last summer where hashish and amphetamine were smuggled from Denmark to the Faroes via sailboat.
Okay, well, that covers a lot of ground for today.
So there were some administrative issues identified that the bank needs to address, but overall, it seems like they're in a stable position.
Okay, let's move on now to something a little lighter. We touched on ultra-processed foods earlier. What are those exactly?
So ultra-processed foods are basically foods that can't be made in a typical home kitchen. Things like candy chips, cakes, and long-life bread. They often contain a lot of additives and ingredients that you wouldn't normally use in home cooking.
So basically anything that comes prepackaged and ready to eat.
Yeah, pretty much. And while they're not inherently bad, they should be consumed in moderation because of those additives.
Good advice. All right, let's turn our attention now to some legal rulings. It seems there's a new fine in place for people who import dogs without prior permission.
That's right. The Faroes court has decided that anyone importing dogs without permission from the Faroes Food and Veterinary Authority will face a fine of 3,000 Danish kroners.
Interesting. So it's important for people to be aware of that rule if they're planning to bring their furry friends to the islands.
Definitely. It's always best to check the regulations beforehand to avoid any surprises.
Good point. And speaking of regulations, there's been some talk about something called golden maps. What is that all about?
Golden Maps refers to the distribution of digital images of naked women on social media without their consent, and there have been 2 charges filed in such cases in the Faroe Islands so far, but no convictions yet.
Interesting. So it's a relatively new issue that's being addressed by the legal system.
Yes, it's something that's gaining more attention as technology evolves and the ways in which images can be shared and distributed change.
Okay, well, let's move on now to some news from the crime beat. 3 Danish men were recently arrested in Denmark for allegedly planning to smuggle narcotics to the Faroe Islands.
Right. These arrests follow a similar incident that happened last summer where hashish and amphetamine were smuggled from Denmark to the Faroe Islands on a sailboat. So it seems like this is an ongoing issue that authorities are trying to crack down on.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like they're taking it seriously. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this edition of the PALS Fundamentals News Report.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
And as always, we encourage you to explore these topics further. The links to all of our sources are down below in the description.
And be sure to check out our YouTube channel for more videos like this.
Until next time, stay curious.